total and utter nonsense being talked about when it comes to the Jack Adams Award. Lindy Ruff and Jon Cooper. It shouldn't be hard, but maybe it will be. We'll talk about that race and the Sabres loss to Boston coming up on Locked On Sabres.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Welcome in, Sabres fans, and thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. You can watch our show on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe us there. And if you are listening, whether that's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever it might be that you look up and you see that Everydayers Club button, that's ad-free versions of this show, which you can get by becoming a part of our Everydayers Club. And to do that, head over to the website, go to lockedonsabres.supercast.com. And we still got a few days left in the month here. Be sure to use the promo code MARCH, and you'll get your first month free, and you can hang out, see if you like it, and hopefully join us for the long term heading into the playoffs. Sneaky Joe DiBiase on today's show, which is presented by FanDuel. During the tournament, FanDuel is offering $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. The Sabres fall at home to the Boston Bruins. It was not a very stellar effort, I must say, by the team, especially in the first two periods. We will get to the game that we saw and what went wrong, what went right. Another really strong effort from Zach Benson in this game. And a couple of individuals that I am starting to get a little worried about, but I definitely only want to go with a little worried about, because nothing that's negative about the Sabres, I would say, extends beyond 3 games at the max. They played really well and strong in the first couple of games of that Pacific West Coast trip. The Kings game was a little bit up and down for this, and then I have kind of been on and off about their effort and their play overall. There just seems to be some, turnover stuff and sloppy play that's starting to leak into their game. But hey, this is where you're not in the playoffs yet, and you've got a little time here to make sure that doesn't become a trend that goes beyond just a couple of games. So no need to sound the alarm, but some things we do need to address a little bit later on today's show. A lot, though, today on the race for the Jack Adams Award. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this today because it is driving me mad. The conversation and almost mentally preparing myself for the dumbest thing imaginable, which would be Lindy Ruff not winning this award in favor of Jon Cooper of the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is the thing I'm most worried about right now when it comes to Lindy and that award. Dan Muse of the Penguins will get a lot of talk and probably will get some votes for the job that he's done in year one with Pittsburgh, turning them around, although they're only a point up on a playoff spot, so they've still got work to do. Travis Green has come up a little bit for Ottawa. Same thing. They're tied for a playoff spot. You can't really thrust him into the conversation yet. Rick Bowness could be an answer to this question because of Columbus's resurgence, and they're in second place right now, but he hasn't been there the whole year, and they're the same thing. They are 2 points up on a playoff spot. They've got work to do. You could name a bunch of different guys. Joel Quenneville is in first in the Pacific. However, it's a pillow fight division, as Connor McDavid put it. So how impressive really is that if you only end up with like 90 points and have a negative goal differential and win your division? So I don't know about Quenneville either. I think the majority of the talk and of the debate about this award is going to be Lindy Ruff versus Jon Cooper. And to be frank, right out of the gates here, I cannot understand and fathom why it is even a conversation. And I think the way that it is talked about is really what is driving me nuts, more than if you just wanted to make a case that, hey, should Tampa win the division, this, and this, is why Jon Cooper should win the Jack Adams Award, and you really narrow your scope to this year, then all right, I can have a conversation with you. But when the points being thrown around are, well, he's been an incredible coach, one of the best coaches in the league for a decade. Well, wait a minute. What are we doing? Are we doing coach of the year, or are we doing coach of the decade? What is it? Because I don't want to hear about what he did 8 years ago and how he's never won the Jack Adams Award before. Sure, voters are human, and is the idea that he's never won before going to play into it a little bit? Again, some of these voters are human. Maybe it will. Should it? The answer should definitively be no. Him not winning the Jack Adams Award in 2018 should have no bearing on whether he wins the award in 2026, as if to say, well, if he had won the award 8 years ago, then we wouldn't be talking about him right now. Because that is kind of how I feel. I kind of feel right now like if Jon Cooper had won Coach of the Year 8 years ago, he wouldn't be in this conversation because of the real points that you should be focusing on, which are, well, what's the Lightning season really been? I almost feel like everyone is searching for reasons to give Jon Cooper this award. And one that a lot of this is, by the way, sparked by the post-game talk that TNT had with Paul Bissonnette and Anson Carter and Darren Pang, who at different times I've liked on that broadcast. Pang and Bissonnette, especially. Anson Carter's never done a lot for me. He's one of those guys that really keeps it down the middle and very rarely says anything interesting. I think Pang and Bissonnette are guys that will do that. But whatever. None of the three, when asked the question, hey, who should the favorites be for the Jack Adams Award? And they listed 3 names each, except for Carter actually listed a 4th. And out of a possible 10 votes, 0 were given to Lindy Ruff. That makes no sense at all. He was mentioned in the conversation a little bit later on when Liam McHugh brought him up, but for him to not even be in the top 3 or 4 of those 3 individuals makes no sense to me. Now, the broadcasters do vote on this award, and I don't know who that extends to. Is that play-by-play men? Is that guys that work on team broadcasts? How many national guys does that include? Does that only include the guys in the booth, or does that include the studio analysts? So I don't know which of those 3 actually have votes, but it's not a great sign when Lindy's not getting a single vote from 3 guys that I don't know. Again, could they have votes? They might. I think Pang might have one, but I'm not sure. And then they talk about Jon Cooper. And again, the same points that are being talked about are, well, he's been a great coach for a long time. Isn't it crazy how he doesn't have one? And now let's try to force some argument as to why he should win it this year. And this is where it's being forced. The argument that is being made more than any other as to why Jon Cooper should win Coach of the Year for this year, none of the previous, legacy award stuff. Why is it this year that more than any other year? And the thing that is being talked about are injuries, how he has navigated this team through a lot of important injuries, and they've been hurt all year and games lost. And here they are still sitting with 93 points and competing for the top of the division, not in first place, but competing for the top of the division. That point never made about Lindy Ruff. Never made about him at all. No mention that Josh Norris missed a ton of games twice this year. No mention that Yuri Kulik has been out for the entire year, or that Connor Timmins missed more than half of the year as well, or that Dahlin was in and out of the lineup a couple of times because he had gone overseas, obviously for his fiance. He had a great moment last night in the arena, by the way, with that. That Alex Lyon and Luukkonen took turns getting injured a couple of times. When you look at your goaltenders and on and on and on, there's more than that, more important players than that. And what it all ends up equating to at the end of the day is that the Sabres have, as of March 20th. So this is 6 days old, but it's relatively the same. This is how far the data I found went to. From the beginning of the year to March 20th, the Lightning had 267 man games lost. The Sabres had 371. That's more than 100 more man games lost. And if you want to tell me, okay, well, the caliber of player that the Lightning were missing out on was higher, I can acknowledge that. But why is that true? Because the Lightning have more talent, which is why Lindy over Cooper should be easy. The Lightning were missing players of the level the Sabres don't have a lot of, right? Braden Point, you could maybe argue Tage is on Braden Point's level, and that's probably it when it comes to their forwards. And Point is their third best forward. Maybe you want to give him second over Brandon Hagel. And by the way, Braden Point has not missed the entire year. He's played 52 games. He's missed 18 games. He didn't miss 70 games. He missed 18 games. Victor Hedman, he's missed a lot of games. That is the guy you could point to the most. He's only played 33, and they have stabilized the defense core around him. Like, I'm not saying that they've been healthy all year long, but to make it sound like it's this historic level of injuries that Jon Cooper has had to navigate the Lightning through. You missed Hedman for half a year, and you missed Braden Point for a couple of weeks. Kucherov has played the whole year, 66 of the 70 games. He's got 100 points in his last 50 games played. You have the MVP of the league on your roster that is going to lead the league in points, likely, and maybe going to win the MVP. You have the best goaltender in the world. He's been available to you. He's started 49 games this year, leads the NHL in wins. You have Kucherov. You have Vasilevsky. You have Brandon Hagel. You have Jake Gensel. All these guys have been healthy all year long. Let's not pretend that the Tampa Bay Lightning has suffered this grave injustice with man games lost and that Jon Cooper has been George Washington crossing the Delaware. It's not the case. It's an argument that is being forced because I think there is a large contingent, honestly, maybe of Canadian media that might feel bad for Jon Cooper. I don't know, because one, he's never won the award, and maybe two, because he won a silver medal instead of a gold medal this year. There's a contingent that I'm afraid of right now that will give Jon Cooper not Coach of the Year, but the Lifetime Achievement Award. This year, if Jon Cooper wins the Jack Adams, don't call it the Jack Adams Coach of the Year. Call it the Jack Adams Lifetime Achievement Award, because that's what it will be. It will have no basis in 2025-26 if he wins that award. They were expected, coming into the year, to win the division. They had the best odds to win the Atlantic. They had the highest point total to win the Atlantic. Nobody in the world projected the Lightning to have a poor season. And they're not in first place. They're in second place. The Sabres are in first place. The Sabres had the sixth best odds to win the Atlantic Division. There is no real logical case for Cooper over Lindy Ruff, especially when you think about what the award is. If you want to tear up what the Jack Adams Award is and throw it out the window, that's fine. Can we do that next year, though? Can we do that the year after that? Why is this the year that is being chosen to rip it all up with the Jack Adams and change the definition of the award? I don't even mind that argument. Honestly, like, I agree with it in principle that the Jack Adams Award should not always just be the biggest turnaround, the biggest, we were wrong about this team. I don't know why that's happening. They were supposed to be bad. Now they're good. Give that guy Coach of the Year. I'm not saying that that is how the Jack Adams should be in perpetuity, but that is what the award has been. Why is this the year that is being talked about like it should change? Pick next year. Because on the Lifetime Achievement Award part of my commentary, Jon Cooper is 58 years old. He's got years left to coach in the NHL, unless he's going to retire out of nowhere at some point. He's got years to go to win that award. Lindy Ruff is at the end of his career. He might go one more year. Maybe he goes two more. He might not go any more years. This might be it. He is 66 years old. Guys don't generally coach past 67. He has won Jack Adams Award. I'm not saying that's not enough. Many guys don't have more than one. A lot of all-time coaches have one or two, and that's really it. But this guy is fourth all-time in wins in the NHL. A second Jack Adams Award would be totally in line with the career. It would be totally earned. So don't give me the lifetime achievement part of it. Don't give me man games lost. The Sabres are in first in the division with a team that has less elite players than that team. That's whose coach should win the Jack Adams Award. Lindy Ruff should win it. When we come back, more on this, what the odds do say about it, and also the Sabres' loss to Boston. All coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by Robinhood. And right now, sports, you're seeing maybe some of these prediction markets out there. What if sports were traded like markets? Well, now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets will change the game, are changing the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you move with it. And if you know the game, but you never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge, now take part. And in a market powered by people, you're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast on the Jack Adams Award. Cannot be Jon Cooper. It cannot be Jon Cooper over Lindy Ruff. What do the odds say about it and where this thing will actually go? And by the way, when we will actually find out about it this year, because generally that will take place during the playoffs. Last year, it was actually during, and this is more common, like late in the playoffs. Like we are talking Stanley Cup final time. Last year, it was on June 12th, and that was before Game 4 of the Stanley Cup final. So we have a couple of months to go, and we have 10 more games. I believe they vote after the regular season, and then the finalists will be announced in late April. That's generally how the process goes. So we'll know, I believe we'll know who the final three are for the Jack Adams sometime late next month, maybe about a month from now. And again, the votes will be cast before the Stanley Cup playoffs have begun. So on Cooper, on Lindy, on that award, how much of it really might come down to who wins the division? I mean, if you can hear it in my voice, I don't believe there should be any scenario where Jon Cooper wins the award. Like if I had a ballot, he wouldn't even be on it. He wouldn't be in my top 3 or my top 5. I would go with Dan Muse before I got to him. I would go with Travis Green of the Ottawa Senators. You want to talk about a great coaching job? That guy has navigated having the worst goaltending in hockey all year long and still has his team in line to make the postseason. I would even go last night. You want to go with Boston? I would go with Marco Sturm. His roster stinks flat out. And they beat the Sabres last night. They are 3 points up on a playoff spot. And those are really just teams even in the Sabres division. I know the Penguins aren't in the Sabres division. I'd go Rick Bowness over him. I can't imagine Cooper doing it. But will the division matter to that? I don't think it should. I think it might. I think Lindy might have to win the division to really lock that down. And at the moment, they're up by 3. They've played 2 more games. The Lightning have a tougher schedule, though. down the stretch. It's going to be really close, and these two will play each other again on April 6th, and that very well could be a game that decides the division. That's another point, by the way, in Lindy's favor, is the head-to-head on the year. The Sabres are 2-0-1 against the Lightning head-to-head. They've outscored Tampa Bay 17-13, and not to go all back in on the Cooper rant, but listen, you gave up first to the Sabres. The Sabres didn't just take first from the Lightning. The Lightning wrapped it up with a bow and presented it to them. They lost 6 of 7 after the Olympic break. They won one game against Toronto, and then they lost 6 of 7. They had all their guys for that stretch. Point was in the lineup. Hedman was in the lineup. Vasilevsky played most of those games. You lost 6 of 7 and allowed the Sabres to come in from behind and take the division away. So you did it to yourselves. And the Sabres have been fending them off. 2 straight overtime losses. You'd like it to be at 5 points right now, but it's at 3. And I think if the Sabres win the division, it 100% will be Lindy Ruff. If they don't win the division, I'm really unsure which way it will go. Coin flip. And that will have me worried. So that's one extra rooting motivation for Lindy. And on Lindy, just his case without the Cooper piece of it. He really, just to me, has pushed all the right buttons this season. And it does, I think, work with the roster they have. The thing I said about Lindy when they hired him before last season that I liked was that throughout his entire Sabres career, he's been adaptable to whatever roster he's got. In 99 and in 2010, his best player was his goaltender, and he didn't have a lot of offensive talent. So what did they play? What type of hockey did they play? Let's lock it down, not take risks, play super strong defensive hockey, and really present our game to best have our goaltender really carry us. And in one of those seasons, they went to the finals, and in another, they won the division. Pretty successful, given they didn't have a lot of talent up front. What about when they were fast and they could move up and down the ice? 06 and 07. Our best players are our forwards, our speed, our skill, the way the game is changing. They're ahead of the curve on that with power play and what they did in the 05 training camp to get them ready for all of it. Adaptability. Let's play that style. It worked. Lead the league in goals, President's Trophy, conference finals, back-to-back years, playing a very different way than you would have in 99 and in 2010. Here comes this team with a type of team that Lindy's never had, not in Buffalo at least, where your defensemen are the strength of your team. The dynamic ability of Dahlin and Byram and Power and Samuelson, those four, and Samuelson on his own, just turning him around as a player from last year to this year. But to see what you have in those defensemen and utilize them to their greatest strength and play a more positionless style in the offensive zone, the high cycle, often the defenseman getting really low in the offensive zone and creating offense in the corners and even behind the net and in front of the net in the slot. That being willing to play that way has helped propel them to where they are. And that deserves a lot of credit. I think the physical nature that they have as a team this year deserves a lot of credit. They were broken last year as a team when Steven Neuwiesen hit Tage Thompson and nobody did anything about it. And Lindy was really vocal in the room and in the public about that after. And he got his message across. I don't know how he did it. You might have heard Andrew Peters and Craig Rivet last week talking about how one of the Sabres players blowing up on Lindy early in the year might have had some influence on how the season has gone. Even that, though, when I heard that, and I hadn't heard that, I don't distrust Andrew and Craig at all, but I hadn't heard that. But if that is even true, and Lindy might have backed off the players a little bit, even that is a reason to give some credit for Lindy. Maybe not as much as he would get otherwise, but how many coaches over time, Mike Babcock's and This used to be Tortorella, probably still would be. Your drill sergeant, old school hockey coaches would get challenged by a player like that and wouldn't back off, would just keep going and maybe losing the room in the process. Lindy, if that is true, deciding to back off a bit, like that's pushing the right buttons. That's feeling what your team needs. And if you've got to change the way you're going about it, that's coaching. That's part of coaching. So I think Lindy deserves it. I know I'm biased. I recognize that. I mean, the Sabres word mark is to my left here if you're watching on YouTube. I just don't think it should be Cooper. I think Muse should get it over him, and I think Bowness should get it over him. And I think Travis Green and Marco Sturm should get it over Jon Cooper. It just shouldn't be Cooper to me. It should be Lindy, and if it's not Lindy, then it should be one of those other guys. All right. I mean, really, just to summarize, how much I just did 25 minutes on the Jack Adams. I really might only need one line. He's the head coach of the number one team in the Eastern Conference who has a 14-year playoff drought. That might be all you need. That really, at its core, should be all you need. That sentence. Number one in the East, 14-year playoff drought. Done. There's my vote. When we come back, what happened in this loss to Boston when we return on Locked On Sabres? Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by GameTime. Maybe you were in the arena last night and maybe you didn't get everything you wanted out of it. The second period was a little bit down in the dumps, not a lot of atmosphere. Third period, though, bounced right back up. If you want to check out a game and get to the arena with the packed house and an atmosphere or in the playoffs, go to the GameTime app because nothing beats the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple, and that's why GameTime has become my go-to app for scoring tickets fast. Without all the hassle, it puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. My favorite part, all-in pricing up front. No hiding what it's going to be and showing you one price when you get in the app and a different one when you're in checkout with a bunch of surprise fees. No surprise fees at checkout. Being able to see the view from the seat before making a decision, that makes it a lot easier. And if you're looking to save money, zone deals stand out. Choose a section. GameTime picks a seat, and you save big. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. By the way, I didn't give you what the odds say about the Lindy Ruff Jack Adams Award. If you look at some of the prediction markets, you're looking at about 70% for him to win it. Cooper at 26%, and then everybody else below that. The Sabres fall to Boston 4-3 in overtime. You might be willing to mock me the day after I said that that's the team I want to see in the playoffs, the Boston Bruins. And then the Bruins went out and they beat the Buffalo Sabres in their own building. I'm not deterred, though. That is still the team that I want to face. And here's why, and part of it is what happened yesterday. Lindy put it this way. He thought their first two periods were the worst hockey he's seen from his team in 3 months. I wouldn't really disagree. They were flat. They didn't look energized. They weren't dangerous. It took them forever to get shots on goal. A lot of their shots, when they were getting them, were from far out. This wasn't a quality hockey game from them. Not a lot of speed, not a lot of good passing, and not a lot of good defensive reads. I feel like that's their F game. Through two periods, at least. That's an F for the Buffalo Sabres. And Boston, would I say it's their A game? If it's not their A game, it's close to it. They were grinding and working the boards. They were winning battles along the wall. They were getting Pastrnak free and open. They were getting the puck out of their own end, not having their goalie really bail them out. And it wasn't Swayman anyway, so Korpisalo might not have been able to do it. I think that's pretty close to an A game for the Boston Bruins. And the score was a 1-goal game going into the third period. All of that. Worst 2 periods in 3 months. Bruins playing well. And it was a 1-goal hockey game. And the Sabres only lose by way of 3-on-3 overtime. If that's their best shot, I'll take a series of that. I'm not betting on the Sabres looking like that 4 times in a playoff series. So I'm not deterred by the Bruins at all. Now, what the Sabres did last night that I do not like, I did not like Ryan McLeod in this game at all. He was the low center on the David Pastrnak goal early on in the game. The Bruins like to work the wall and get a quick pass out to the center. And when they love to do that, Pasternak's their best guy on the team to finish. And you can't leave him standing alone like that. And Jack Quinn tried to recover for McLeod late. It might have looked like that was him. But no, that's McLeod. McLeod, you're the low center. You have got to be responsible for that open ice in the middle and not allow Pastrnak to go in there unevaded to the shot. So didn't like McLeod there. I also didn't like what he did on the final goal. He comes out in overtime. Krebs takes the faceoff, loses, runs to the bench. McLeod comes out. And McLeod with the flyby, wave your stick at Pastrnak and not really challenge him in any real meaningful way starts all the confusion in the defensive zone that eventually gets Alex Tuch in a bad spot, and he makes a really poor decision too. But McLeod starts the whole thing. Have not liked him in the last 2 games. I said on one of our last shows, I think he was the culprit for the game-tying goal in Anaheim, taking the outside when he should have taken the inside. I'd like to see him have a good game coming up here. I don't want to say that it's been anything more than 2 games. Like, this has not been a trend for McLeod. It's just, it might not even be 2 full bad games because I didn't notice him doing anything poor in the Anaheim game before the 3rd period. So 4 bad periods, 5 bad periods at most for McLeod right now. The only reason I'm thinking about him a little bit more today is because we're wondering about guys in the playoffs and who's going to stand out, who's going to continue to play well. McLeod in Edmonton got relegated to a guy who played less than 10 minutes a night and was healthy scratched in the postseason. Stanley Cup Finals, he was healthy scratched. And sure, that was part of the reason why they didn't want to pay him and were looking to move him and eventually did to the Sabres. So I'd like to see McLeod have a bounce back. Didn't like him on either the first goal or the last goal. Couple other things I spotted, though, that I did like. Oh, before that, one other thing I didn't like. Luukkonen. The last 2 goals. I don't know why you're chasing the puck that aggressively when it looks like it's going wide. And if you are going to chase the puck like that when it's going high and you're going to go blocker, you need to get a full blocker on it. He only gets a piece of it, and it creates all the chaos with it going off the boards and in behind him. And then Owen Parker on WGR, our video producer this morning, said the way that you were supposed to play that as a goalie is not to freeze. Luukkonen froze outside the net. Like, I don't know where the puck is. I'm not going to move. No, what you want to do is search for the puck, but once you're to your own net and use the right foot, don't, get it into a position where you're going to bank it in. Do like a little spin almost while you're getting yourself back into position. Freezing outside the net is one of the worst things that you could do. And again, it started, though, with a bad read on the blocker, and he just let it go in the first place. Second goal, I don't know what happened. The overtime goal, the 4th goal, I should say. I don't know what happened. That's a 5-hole goal. Your stick is not really solid on the ice. You left it wide open. I don't know why. You want to save there from Luukkonen on Pavel Zacha. So not a huge fan of Luukkonen's game. Things I did like, though, Tage was great. The setups on both Zucker goals on the power play. So the power play was really working. And Zach Benson was awesome in this game. And that 4th line continues to create offense and play really well. However, Benson's goal was not really the 4th line. I know Malenstein was out there, but that was the end of a penalty kill. He's pressuring Mason Lohrei, and he gets him to he forces the turnover, walks him with speed. He does that little head fake that he did on the empty net goal a couple of games ago in LA. This time, though, on Korpisalo, and he gets him to bite. He gets him to go all the way across, make Korpisalo think I'm going to the backhand, pull it back to the forehand, wide open net. And then because players hate him and they love to get a free shot in on him, Lohrei hits him from behind, draws the penalty, and you get the go-ahead goal, which eventually is your 1-point goal. It gets you the overtime, that Zucker power play goal. So Benson creating really 2 goals in a 30-second stretch He's been great the last 3-4 games. And you hope that he keeps it rolling. So they lose, though, overall, and they can't figure out 3-on-3 overtime. But the good news is, in the playoffs, you do not have to play 3-on-3 overtime. So the Bruins win the season series, but I am not afraid. I still want the Bruins in round 1. Unless Detroit wants to get themselves back into the mix, but I feel like that's not going to happen. Okay, that'll do it for us. Tomorrow against the Red Wings. We'll talk about it then, and we'll preview an opponent that is really falling apart, have only won 3 of their last 11, but are also desperate. So Tampa in action, and what is going to happen with them. We will tell you what happens there. They play tonight against Seattle, so go Kraken. And then we'll talk to you tomorrow. Get into our Everydayers Club, the Discord, the ad-free versions of the show, all available. Go to LockedOnSabres.supercast.com. Talk to you tomorrow on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now your number 1 sports podcast network.